Actions of this president have proved that he is unhinged and unwell, and has been for some time. Over the weekend, we read and heard the president's Easter morning tweet of profanity, blasphemy, danger, and the following day, his threat to eliminate an entire civilization. Pause there. These are not normal times, America. When will my Republican colleagues stand up in the House, in the Senate, the Vice President, the cabinet secretaries who surround this madman? When will they grow a spine? When will they say, stop? We've been taken to an even darker corner of his addled mind than one that we witnessed this week, as children in Iran and around the globe sat in fear, worrying if a president of the United States would blow up an entire civilization, Iran.
A sitting U.S. president threatened to wipe out an entire civilization on Easter Sunday in a tweet filled with profanity, and Congress was on vacation. That is the situation these Democratic lawmakers returned to Washington to address during a pro forma session, a procedural ghost town where the Republican presiding officer can simply adjourn without calling on anyone, which is exactly what happened. 40 days of war in Iran, 13 American service members dead, $25 billion spent, and Congress has been in session for just 33 of those days. Speaker Mike Johnson kept his members away because he knows the moment he holds a real vote, he risks losing his speakership to the far right of his own caucus. So he chose his job over the Constitution. This is not a partisan talking point. The War Powers Resolution of 1973 exists precisely because Congress recognized what happens when presidents are handed blank checks for war. Trump didn't ask for this one. He didn't go to Congress, he bombed Iran and dared anyone to stop him. And so far, almost nobody has. Sarah Jacobs represents San Diego, the largest military community in the country.
If you're a service member, thinking what you might do if you're given the order to destroy a civilization. Okay, this is the position that we are putting our service members in, who are required by law to not follow an unlawful order. We cannot excuse what the president said as a negotiating tactic. Threatening genocide is not a negotiating tactic. It is important that even though we were able to get this ceasefire, which I pray holds, that we hold this president accountable for what he threatened. Because threatening genocide is not just against international law, it's against our federal law too, and it is our job as Congress to stand up. This president cannot be trusted to police himself. He does not recognize any red lines. Not $200 billion, not 13 service members lost, not thousands of civilians, not genocide. The only thing that will put a check on him is us in Congress doing our job, standing up and saying not one more cent, standing up and saying you do not have the authorization to do this, stand up and saying that this is not okay. And every American of conscience from across the political spectrum is and should be disgusted by the fact that we even have to stand here talking about the fact that the United States president threatened to commit genocide against an entire civilization. That is not.
When she says service members are being put in an impossible position, she is not speaking abstractly. Under the Uniform Code of Military Justice, following an unlawful order is not a defense. It is a crime. Trump publicly threatened to destroy civilian power plants and bridges. Dozens of international law experts signed an open letter warning those threats, if executed, constitute war crimes under the Geneva Conventions. The president's response when asked if he was concerned about war crimes, he said, not at all. Tucker Carlson called the Easter Post vile on every level. Alex Jones called the civilization threat the definition of genocide. Marjorie Taylor Greene posted, 25th Amendment. This is evil and madness. These are not Democrats. These are Trump's most loyal media allies, and even they broke. The question Democrats are asking on those Capitol steps is the same one the rest of the country should be demanding an answer to. Where are the Republicans in Congress? The 25th Amendment requires the Vice President and a majority of the cabinet to declare.
Question, Representative Dean, you led the second impeachment. You were part of the second impeachment of President Trump. Is impeachment something that Democrats could consider or even be on the table at this point?
Well, I know you know that we went through two. We went through two impeachments with Donald Trump. as a result of his high crimes and misdemeanors, just some of them, captured in the first term. As you all know, we are in the minority. So bringing forward impeachment right now, while he is guilty of a litany of high crimes and misdemeanors, I don't think it is a best use of our time. Let us get into the majority. Let us get a Senate majority and then hold this president to account. But for right now, I call upon, and I think about those days when I was a manager during the second impeachment, and we made our closing arguments on the floor of the Senate. And what did Mr. McConnell do? And I say this to warn Leader Thune. You do not want to be in the same position that Mitch McConnell is in for all of history, voting not to convict the president for his high crimes and misdemeanors of inciting an insurrection at this very place where Capitol police officers were beaten, more than 5 lost their lives. You do not want to be in that same place, Mr. Thune, to wave a flag and allow the president to continue this. So the president needs to be held accountable. We'll do it first through the War Powers Resolution and get control back for Congress, and second through elections to unseat these people who are amazingly silent.
I just want to add, our Republican colleagues saw the exact same tweets that we saw over the weekend, right? Our Republican colleagues know. They know that threatening genocide is not acceptable. I urge them to come back, and all options should be on the table. They should come back. They should realize that their president is putting us in harm's way, is making us less safe, and they should also be demanding impeachment. They should also be demanding the 25th Amendment. They should be here with us on behalf of the American people. This is not a partisan issue. Threatening genocide is not a partisan issue. I guarantee you, if it was a Democratic president who threatened genocide, we would all be standing here too saying the exact same thing. Because this is not about right versus left. This is about what is right for our country. And so,
declare the president unable to discharge his duties. More than 80 Democratic lawmakers have already sent that letter to the cabinet. 0 cabinet members have responded publicly. Madeleine Dean managed Trump's second impeachment. She knows what it costs. She also knows the math. Democrats are in the minority. They cannot impeach alone. So she did something more pointed. She looked directly at Senate Majority Leader Thune and warned him, "Do not be Mitch McConnell." McConnell voted to acquit Trump after January 6th, then called it a moral failure on the Senate floor minutes later. History did not forgive him for that sequence. Thune is now facing the same fork in the road. A president who threatened to annihilate a civilization on social media. A war Congress never authorized. A DHS shutdown Congress won't vote to end. And a speaker who keeps leaving town. This is the constitutional crisis that scholars spent years warning about. It is not theoretical anymore. Here is what actually happened on April 10th, 2026. Democrats came back to Washington during recess. They went to the House floor.
Thank you, Suhas. We're here today and went to the House floor to try to force an end to Donald Trump's dangerous, reckless, unauthorized war in Iran. And I think it's important to remind ourselves that the American people are paying the price for this war as we speak. 13 brave service members who lost their lives have paid the ultimate price. American taxpayers paying billions of dollars a day as the war rages and the bombs fall. We're spending millions of dollars on Patriot missiles to intercept drones that Iran launches from the back of a pickup truck and costs them $10,000 or $20,000. While at the same time, in our home state of Virginia, 33,000 Virginians have lost their health insurance because the Republican Congress says we couldn't afford to extend a middle-class tax credit to help Americans afford their health care. So congressional Republicans have a choice. They can continue to stand with Donald Trump and his illegal, dangerous, reckless war in the Middle East, or they can put America and Americans first and join us in passing a War Powers Resolution to rein in this out-of-control president.
The Republican presiding officer adjourned the session without recognizing them. They walked outside, held a press conference, and laid out the full picture. 40 days of war, 13 dead, billions gone, a president who threatened genocide on a holiday morning, a Strait of Hormuz that Iran now controls as a bargaining chip, in a stronger position than before this war began, according to Rep. Ivey. A ceasefire that everyone in this press conference called insufficient or already broken, and a speaker who will not call Congress back because doing so might cost him his job. The War Powers Resolution of 1973 was written for this exact scenario. Congress passes it. The president has 60 days to comply or get authorization. It is the law. Trump has ignored it. Johnson has enabled the ignoring. Democrats need just 2 more Republican votes in the House to pass it. 2. And the Senate is set to vote when they return next week. The question is whether any Republican in either chamber has more loyalty to the Constitution than to a president who spent Easter Sunday threatening to destroy a civilization of 93 million people. That answer will define this Congress, and it will define every name attached to the silence. If this story matters to you, share it, subscribe, leave a comment. This is not something you watch and scroll past.